Okay, good afternoon. Representative Matt Cook, officially calling a special called meeting of licensing and occupations to order. Thank everyone for being here today. As I just stated a few minutes ago, this is going to be no standing in here. We're going to keep the doors closed and the aisleways clear to get out, safety reasons. We're going to respect the rules just like we'd have on the House floor. We're not going to have any props, anything, pictures hanging on the wall, etc. That's for all parties. Overflow room, as I mentioned before, is room 149. Please silence your cell phones so we don't have any disruption going on as our testifiers are up here presenting. The format for today is going to run like this. We're going to go 20 minutes. The bill sponsor, allow the bill sponsor to get up and present. We'll go 20. We'll allow the table to and bring his accompanying parties up with him. We'll allow them to change seats once they're finished. We'll allow 20 minutes from the gray machine that have signed up to speak. You'll have 20 minutes. At that point, we'll stop. I'll give a very brief conclusion to the bill sponsor and team, and then we'll go into questions. We'll do that for roughly 20 or so minutes, and when they start to wrap down, we will vote. I love everybody here, but I don't want to spend the night with you. So, that being said, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Representative Banta.
Here.
Representative Bratcher.
Here.
Representative Callaway.
Here.
Representative Kleins.
Here.
Representative Dixon. Here. Representative Pfister.
Here.
Representative Flannery.
Here.
Representative Gentry.
Here.
Representative Hevron.
Here.
Representative Herron.
Here.
Representative Huff.
Here.
Representative Jackson.
Present.
Representative Kulkarni.
Present.
Representative Meredith.
Yes, ma'am.
Representative Moser. Representative Palumbo.
Yes.
Representative Pratt.
Here.
Representative Smith.
Yes.
Representative Timoney.
Here.
Chairman Cook.
Here. We have a quorum. We're duly constituted to do business. Let's roll. If you all bring all your team up to the table and go ahead and make sure your green buttons are on. If everybody just go ahead and introduce yourself for the record before anybody starts, and that way we're all ready to roll. I think Colonel Arnett's coming up to the table now. So if everybody, just go across there and introduce everybody, and then we'll begin.
Thank you, Chairman. Killian Timoney, State Representative, 45th District.
Ashley Watts, President and CEO, Kentucky Chamber of Commerce.
Larry Arnett, Joint Executive Council of Veteran Organizations of Kentucky.
Mark Guilfoyle with the Kentuckians Against Illegal Gambling.
The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Committee. Good afternoon. I'm here to present House Bill 594 regarding gaming in Kentucky. Let me begin with letting you all know the collaboration that was involved in the creation of this bill. Representatives from the Retail Federation, including national representatives from Chuck E. Cheese, Dave & Buster's, were consulted and agree on the language in this bill. The language protects them and similar companies like Malibu Jack's, Monkey Joe's, Gaddy Town, Gaddy World. The charitable gaming industry has contributed and agreed to this language. The State Fair Board contributed and agreed to this language. The University of Kentucky contributed and agreed to this language. And for one of the elephants in the room, yes, the racetracks have seen and contributed to the language. They don't like all of it, but are not opposing the bill. No, it is not Churchill Downs' bill. Kentucky has always done an excellent job of regulating gaming, and we want to continue that effort now by outlawing illegal gaming machines and explicitly saying what is and what is not gambling, and what is and what is not devices, machines, are gambling machines, and which are not. Before I get into that, I'm going to let my guests introduce themselves briefly and describe their involvement in this process. Ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, and thank you, committee, for having us today. I'm Ashley Watts. I'm president and CEO of the Kentucky Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber, as you all know, is the state's largest business association. We have been around for 76 years here in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, and what you may not know is that 70% of our membership from all across Kentucky are made up of small businesses with 100 employees or less. Yesterday, I think many of you all met with some of our members from across the Commonwealth. It was our Small Business Day here at the Capitol, and we had over 100 guests come here and meet with you all and let them tell you a little bit about their small businesses all across Kentucky. The Chamber has made clear our position to ban grain machines for a number of reasons. But first and foremost, it was our membership who requested that we vet this bill. And it was our membership who were in agreement in taking the policy position of supporting the ban. As you all know, and many of you have gone through this process, all of our policy decisions at the Kentucky Chamber are driven by our membership. There is a rigorous process where a member or a legislator such as yourself asks us to vet legislation. It is brought to a vote before one of our policy councils and then approved or not approved by our board and our executive committee. Our members support banning these machines because the way in which they have been instituted illegally without government authorization or oversight. We have made our position on this issue very transparent, both publicly and within our membership. To this day, I have not received one single call, email, or text message from any Kentucky Chamber member from across the Commonwealth expressing their disagreement on our position. You all know the Kentucky Chamber. We tackle big policy issues that impact the state's economy, such as tax reform, unemployment insurance reform, issues dealing with workforce. And you also know that we are unabashed supporters, cheerleaders, and advocates for our signature industries here in Kentucky. We have worked really hard to become the horse capital of the world, the bourbon capital of the world, and we do not want to do anything that could put this in jeopardy. And we know that some of these machines pose a threat to the equine industry that you all, as a legislature, have fought so hard to protect. Not one single member of the chamber decides what position we take on a given bill. You all know it's a very thorough process with a lot of input going into it. This bill went through the process, and we are proud to support Representative Killian Timoney's bill. So on behalf of the Chamber, the state's largest business association, we strongly urge members of this committee to support House Bill 594, and I thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak today. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a motion on the sub?
Yes, I think that's appropriate. Let's do that and get it in front of us right now. We have a motion. Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. My name is Larry Arnett, and I'm here today speaking on behalf of the 26 veteran service organizations who belong to the Joint Executive Council of Veteran Organizations of Kentucky, JECVO for short. More specifically, I'm here today to talk to you with the concurrence of the commanders of the four largest veteran service organizations, which is the Veterans of Foreign Wars, the American Legion, the Disabled American Veterans, and AMVETS, American Veterans. Each of these four major veteran organizations are heavily involved in conducting charitable gaming, all of it under the supervision of the Department for Charitable Gaming. The unregulated machines addressed in this bill will have a negative impact on the ability of these VSOs to raise revenue. That revenue contributes substantially to civic endeavors, charitable causes in every community within each of your districts. A vote today in support of 594's passage will reinforce your commitment to ensuring that those posts remain viable and remain a strong asset to your communities. Malcolm Cherry, a name that you may very well know. Malcolm is a Marine Corps veteran. He appeared before this committee back in the interim session. He hoped to testify with this committee today, but he was unfortunately delayed in Bowling Green and was not able to make it. But Malcolm has given me permission to make a few brief but major comments on his behalf. Like me, he's asking the members of this committee to vote yes on House Bill 594. Like hundreds of charities across Kentucky, Commander Cherry's American Legion Post and 3 other local veteran organizations in Bowling Green, the Marine Corps League, the VFW, and the AMVETS, raise money for charitable gaming. The funds raised by those organizations have gone to help tornado victims in western Kentucky, flood victims in eastern Kentucky, homeless veterans and others in and around Bowling Green, schools, churches, athletic teams, the Red Cross, Salvation Army, soup kitchens, and more. Before the gray machines showed up, these veterans groups combined were able to raise and donate nearly $2 million to charitable endeavors each year. That number, since they showed up, that number has been cut in half. And it's going to keep falling if the General Assembly allows these machines to continue to operate. Kentucky's veteran organizations support not only Kentucky veterans and their families, but they support your communities in which you live. We ask that you vote yes for the passage of this bill. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. As indicated, I am Mark Guilfoyle, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the Kentuckians Against Illegal Gambling. Our coalition consists of the state's horse industry, charitable gaming operators, and the 4 main chambers of commerce. We've bluntly stated that these gray games are illegal, and here's why. First, we think it's very telling that the Kentucky Fraternal Order of Police has ended its fundraising partnership with the gray game operators. That speaks volumes. Second, there is an ongoing prosecution taking place against gray games in Round County, where the sheriff seized a gray machine and charged the owner of the establishment with possession of a gambling device, a crime under Kentucky law. And most importantly, they're illegal because Kentucky law is very clear. Any game that involves risking something of value to win a prize based on any element of chance is gambling and therefore prohibited. Gray games undeniably involve an element of chance, so they're illegal. Now, since our organization formed last year, we've been warning Kentuckians about the danger of gray machines. In other states, violent crime, including robberies and worse, have followed. Sadly, it's already happening here in Kentucky. 4 weeks ago in Litchfield, Kentucky, 2 men broke into a convenience store overnight, busted open the gray machines, and stole all the cash. They're known as smash and grab robberies in Pennsylvania, and they're very common in Pennsylvania. So as these machines proliferate in Kentucky, we're sure to see more crime like that. We've warned that taxing and regulating really is not an option. It just won't work. So last November at the interim committee, the gray machine operators were proposing that the Department of Revenue be the regulatory body. Now, in House Bill 525, the regulation bill, they want to create a whole new agency of state government, the Kentucky Gaming Commission. Is more big government really what Kentuckians want? We don't think so. And just how big and heavy-handed would such a new branch of state government have to be to monitor, tax, and regulate many casinos in every one of our 120 counties? We've warned that not passing legislation to ban these machines will lead to the largest expansion of gambling in the history of Kentucky. Gray machine operators originally proposed to limit their locations to locations where alcohol is sold, and there are 8,000 of those statewide, and up to 5 machines per location, so that's 40,000 machines at a minimum in their original proposal. Now, if you read their bill, you'll see that they want to place these anywhere the new gaming commission says they can go. So how many are we going to have? 50,000? 90,000? There's 90,000 in Pennsylvania or more. So make no mistake, unless you pass House Bill 594, we're going to see many casinos popping up on every street corner across Kentucky. These things are going to be woven into the fabric of everyday life. We've also warned, Mr. Chairman, that the 6% tax on gross profits is completely inadequate and entirely out of line with what we see in other states, typically 30 to 50% on slot machines. But look at the allocations that they have in House Bill 525. Only 10% go to the state police, which is denominated as the enforcement body. 10% of the 6% tax for the state police, that's a pittance. And consider that the state police don't even patrol in the urban areas of our state. Northern Kentucky, for example, the state police aren't in Boone, Kenton, and Campbell counties. So that's a serious flaw. Now, the part about making sure that kids won't be playing these games. The reality is busy store clerks and restaurant staff simply don't have the time or the attention to monitor 40,000 plus machines in over 80,000 locations. There's just no way to effectively keep minors from playing these games. We shouldn't be rewarding people who've come in to our state with no legislative authority, no authority whatsoever, set up shop, and now come to you and say, well, just tax us and regulate us. It's not practical, and quite frankly, that's not the way we do business here in Kentucky. We ask you all to please consider supporting House Bill 594. Thank you.
Shannon.
I will be brief because I know you're on a time crunch. My name is Shannon Stiglitz. I'm the Senior Vice President of Government Affairs with the Kentucky Retail Federation. And as Representative Timoney stated, we are so grateful for the opportunity to work closely with him to ensure that the Chuck E. Cheese's, the Dave & Buster's games are protected. We have consistently raised that as a concern, that we wanted to make sure that they would be protected along with esports. And so we are grateful that that has been taken care of in the committee substitute. I want to thank the chairman and all of those who worked with us so quickly to accomplish that goal. Thank you.
Thank you all for your testimony today. Kentucky currently has 3 categories of legal gaming: lottery, charitable gaming, and pari-mutuel wagering. It is this body that decides that. Thus, this legislation, through this process, clarifies what other types of gaming and accompanying devices are legal under Kentucky law. The focus is on KRS Chapter 528.010, which is the definitions for all things gambling and not gambling. First, in Section 1, this bill defines a coin-operated amusement machine. This type of gaming machine includes the types of games that are state and county fairs and other places such as Chuck E. Cheese. It sets a $25 limit per game, but allows for redemption games that allow a player to aggregate their winnings for a larger prize, such as the PlayStation on the top of the shelf that my kids always want to win, but we never do. The iPad or other larger teddy bear, for example. The winnings cannot be exchanged for cash or alcoholic beverages. The next thing the bill does is it defines esports. This occurred at the request of the University of Kentucky to protect the multi-million-dollar facility it houses for video games involving athletics. Next, this bill explicitly states that the machines that operate the way gray machines operate are illegal. This definition, which is exemplary of exactly how they work, is included in the existing definition of a gambling device. Next, this bill contains an additional civil penalty provision, which is a $25,000 fine for those in a high-level role with illegal games of any kind in Kentucky. The penalty goes to the affected county in which the game was located. Finally, there's an amendment which removes the emergency clause to allow ample time to comply should this bill become law. Now let me address the argument you have all heard. These are games of skill, not chance. This whether something is skill or chance is about whether something is a lottery in cases before Kentucky courts interpreting the Constitution. That's it. This moniker is a red herring and nothing more. But to eliminate any question and to reinforce that it is the legislature that decides what is gambling and what is not, This bill eliminates any distinction between skill and chance. It then defines the things that are gambling and gambling devices and exempts those that are not. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That completes, does that complete your testimony?
Yes, sir.
You came in under time. Thank you. We all appreciate that. Okay, you guys will clear the table. And opposition, please come forward. I'll let everybody get seated and we'll go through introduce ourselves and all that, and then we'll get on the clock. So take your time. And let's do kind of the same thing, if you don't mind. If you all could just go through, everybody introduce themselves, and then we'll roll back and start the time and get started.
Sure. Thank you, Chairman. Chairman Mike Barley, Chief Public Affairs Officer with Pace-O-Matic.
Cama Reed, Vice President of BJ Novelty. Cama Reed, Vice President of BJ Novelty Incorporated.
Tim Craig, President of Express Amusements.
Bob Hellringer. I represent Prominent Technologies as both an attorney and a lobbyist. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, members, for allowing us to collectively speak out in opposition to HB 594. I'm with Pace-O-Matic. We operate the Burning Barrel branded cabinets in Kentucky. We have about 2,500 terminals operating in the Commonwealth. KY Mac is also here. They join us in opposition and represent over 400 Kentucky small businesses and fraternal clubs, many of them sitting behind me today. Our legal skill games serve as an important lifeline to small businesses and fraternal clubs. They provide consistent, reliable, and supplemental revenue for these establishments at a time they need it most. They're dealing with the impacts of inflation. I'm sure many of you are hearing about the difficulties they're having with hiring. It is a real problem for them. I'm going to allow Cama Reed of BJ Novelty to discuss the impact skill games have had on her business and those of her customers. But I want to speak directly about the bill, the process, and clean up some false information that you just heard. This bill, I still haven't seen the final draft of it. I've just apparently dropped out of the blue. It's been drafted in the back rooms, and amendments been tacked on with duct tape and baling wire in a desperate attempt to get the votes to pass the bill, all at the expense of the Kentucky small business owners sitting behind me. While much of the language is confusing and contradictory, picking winners and losers, expanding gaming options, establishing an unfunded mandate, and working in concert with sports gaming legislation to create a monopoly for Churchill Downs and others, the only thing that is clear about this bill is that it solely intends to punish the Kentucky small businesses who are seated behind me. I ask yourselves, for what, for whom? Here's some of the misinformation that's been spread about our industry to help push HB 594. They say skill games don't want to be regulated or pay an additional tax. Wrong. We worked with Representative Doan to introduce HB 525, which has been dumped into bill purgatory, presumably in favor of this ban effort led by Churchill Downs. That legislation would have fairly regulated and taxed the industry. What is true is the HHR facilities in Kentucky currently pay one of the lowest tax rates in the nation, with multiple tax write-offs. In Pennsylvania, which was referenced, they pay 54% tax rate. I think that would tell you everything you know about Churchill and what they think about Kentucky. A fact with the low taxes they pay here, they actually have one of the laxest regulatory gaming structures in the nation, all to the benefit of the Churchill Downs slots business. They say that our games are harming the revenues at HHR facilities in the lottery. That's not correct. And just this week, we've heard rumors that Churchill Downs is now claiming they're experiencing revenue declines in Kentucky, and their growth, which they're having record growth, is in other markets. HHR and the lottery have had record high revenues. In fact, Churchill Downs reaped over $1.3 billion in net revenue in just 9 months of 2022. Their CEO, Bill Carstanjen, himself spoke on the record. Quote, with respect to our live and historical racing segment and our gaming segment, we've delivered record first quarter revenue and adjusted EBITDA. We experienced continued strong growth from our Derby City gaming facility, our Oak Grove properties, as well as a nice improvement at our smaller Newport racing and gaming facilities. Churchill's growth nationally is being fueled by Kentucky slots here. That's a fact. They have said our locations attract additional crime. Wrong. With respect to crime, anything asserted by the other side is anecdotal. In fact, the situation being highlighted here, by the picture, it looks like illegal gambling vices, which this bill does not address. There's no funding in this bill. It's an unfunded mandate to clean up any illegal gambling. The only bill that would have done that was HB 525. What's not anecdotal is the crime that is occurring at HHR slots parlors, which stand to be given more power and authority. While one side references thefts, which no one condones, I think we would all agree that crimes against children are reprehensible. Right now, we know that crimes against children have occurred at Kentucky HHR facilities. And Churchill has a long record of established crimes at their casinos related to kids being locked in the cars. In Kentucky casinos, we have guns being fired in facilities. No one is reporting about these crimes. We had to send folks to the courthouses to find them. In other states, in a real regulated environment, established gaming companies are required to publicly report those crimes to the public, not in Kentucky. They, including a board member of the state chamber, have said that Kentucky small businesses are not equipped to handle the rigors of regulation to operate skill games. That is also not correct. Small businesses navigate a lot, and these owners are savvy. It's insulting, to say the least, to insinuate that small businesses are too dumb or less capable than their counterparts in Wyoming, Georgia, Washington, D.C., and other jurisdictions where they operate skill games in a regulated environment. To show you how rigged the push for this legislation has become, the Kentucky Chamber of Commerce has chosen to put the interest of big business partners like Churchill over the interest of Kentucky small businesses and your constituents. The reasoning, small businesses are stupid? They have said that skill games industry goal is to have over 40, I heard 50 today, 50,000 game terminals across the state. It's just not correct. And HB 525 would have limited the number of terminals per location, required operators to apply for licenses as well as certify their games are in fact games of skill. To illustrate how ridiculous their talking point is, in Virginia, a state twice the size of Kentucky, they had about 10,000 games statewide operating in a regulated market. That would equate to closer to 5,000 games in Kentucky, hardly the 50,000 that are being alleged. And then lastly, despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary, they've said our games are illegal. They bring up Rowan County. The Rowan County was an organized pickup that we coordinated with the local authorities to fight back against the assertions that we were illegal. So to say that that was somehow a pickup is just not accurate. In fact, if we were illegal, you would think these would be being picked up everywhere, and this bill would be completely unnecessary. So I'm going to let Bob Hellringer speak a little bit more to the legal part of this, but at this point, I'd like to turn over the presentation to Cameron Reed of BJ Novelty to discuss the impact of skill games on her business.
Thank you, Mike. Thank all of you guys for being here today and mostly for serving our state. It's been a long day. My name is Cameron Reed. My husband Jeff and I own BJ Novelty, a company that my father-in-law founded here in Kentucky in 1955. We are an amusement vending company, and we're located in northern Kentucky with personnel in Louisville and in Lexington, and we serve counties all over the state. We supply Golden Tee golf machines, music, video games, all types of amusement entertainment, and we've added skill games to our asset list. Today, I want us all to take some time to be accountable for our language. Skill games are just that, games that require memory, quickness, and skill. They are not slot machines. Just as the Kentucky Lottery's profits have soared in the past fiscal year, skill games will not harm the slot machine profits or our beloved horsing industry. Skill games help small businesses like ours. We've hired 6 new employees this past year, something that's difficult to do. Skill games help small business in each of your districts. Think of your Main Street in your district. I am thankful for Representative Doan and Representative Maddox for acknowledging there is room for vitality on our main streets. We can still thrive and survive. Those storefronts that are closed can now reopen. I know if Wyoming can regulate skill games, each of you can find an even better solution, a better solution than House Bill 594. House Bill 594 could not only jeopardize our family's amusement vending business with its language, House Bill 594 can jeopardize bowling alleys, golf courses, basically any business that offers leagues or tournaments and distributes cash as a reward for someone's skill. I ask each of us today to understand that redefining words and creating monopolies is not how either party was formed to work or how our state really does benefit. Today, I'm asking each of you to support small business, to support Main Street, to support skill and achievement. There is room for all of us, and I would ask that you vote no for House Bill 594. Thank you.
Let me change places with you. A late scratch, Mr. Chairman. I'm Bob Hellringer. Again, for the record, I represent Prominent Technologies, and I appreciate the opportunity to come here and speak against House Bill 594. First of all, I want to say how much the horse racing industry means to me personally. I brought, before they were taken down, some of the pictures of my family in winner's circles at various racetracks around the country. My mother had a stable of horses. She was very successful and won races. I started as a 19-year-old worker in the publicity department at Miles Park. I kept the jockey statistics. I put myself through Xavier University, helped to put myself through there, working as a mutual clerk at Turfway Park. I was in the union. I've worked as a racing official at tracks all over the country. I've been a turf writer for Blood Horse Magazine and other publications. I've been an equine lawyer. I wrote an equine law textbook. I brought a copy of it with me, bring my own props. And I've written op-ed columns for the Courier Journal. 250 in 10 years, 15 supporting the horse racing industry, all of them. This isn't about hurting or helping the horse racing industry. It's about whether or not we're going to give them a monopoly. How far are we going to go? How far are you going to let them go to crush anyone who they think is a possible competitor? We're not a competitor, okay? It's two totally different business models. Somebody going to a convenience store and buying a pack of gum and stopping to spend a couple of dollars in one of our machines is not the same person that goes to the racetrack, that goes to the HHR facilities. It's just not the same. We are not competition. In competition, racing is thriving in this state, thriving. Purses are at an all-time high. Kentucky Downs has the highest purses in the nation. Our signature tracks, Churchill Downs and Keeneland, higher than anywhere, I think even higher than Saratoga, Mr. Chairman. So they're not in any trouble whatsoever. But yet they want to crush us to clear the way for a monopoly. And we are legal. We are legal. If we were not legal under the laws that you have written, you would not have a bill here to make us illegal. Okay? Follow the logic on that. Our company came in here under laws that you passed that says if you're a game of skill, you're not illegal gambling. And we relied on that. And but my company, before we set foot here, we sent a letter to every county attorney in the state and said, here's who we are, here's what we want to do, here's where we want to do business, and we're willing to meet with you. And we met with many of them to answer all questions, to demonstrate our machines for them. And only 2 counties asked us not to come, and we honored that. Okay, so we're legal. We're not gray games. were legal. And I just, this is a bad look, folks. I'll be honest with you. The Republicans on the panel, I was here as a lobbyist and heard the speeches on the right to work law. People pledging their devotion and dedication to the free enterprise system, to open markets, to competition. Okay, where are those voices today? Okay, this is a bill to establish a monopoly. It's a bad precedent to set. We're going to let Maker's Mark come in here and say, well, we need you to pass a bill to make any out-of-state bourbon illegal, or maybe even our competitors. Why not? They got a big stick too. Okay, you going to entertain that? You're going to set that kind of precedent? I think the main question here today that you have to answer is, whose side are you on? Okay? I mean, if you pass this bill and you run out of our state companies that have made sizable investments here, okay? You run them out, they go back home to Pennsylvania. Have you fixed them? Did you show them? They didn't come here and ask permission. Oh, I'm so tired of hearing that. What kind of standard do you require that of any other business? You know who you're going to hurt? Them. That's who you're going to fix. You're going to fix small business, mom and pop stores that you give all those speeches for and lip service to when you're running for office. The bedrock of the American economy, small business. They're trying to make it out here. And they decided, yes, we'll have this product, and yes, we'll have these games that are legal. And it's helping us make a bottom line. Okay? It's a tough market out there for these convenience stores, liquor stores, grocery stores, small businesses. We're not in a single chain. We're all in small business. That's who you're going to hurt. That's who you're going to hurt with this bill. And the question you have to answer for yourself is, whose side are you on? Because you know what? They're going to remember. These people, a lot of them are first-generation Americans. They have dreams. They've started a business. We ought to be thanking them, welcoming them. And we've got a bill. Mr. Guilfoyle says we're not regulated, we're not taxed. We've come with a bill to do that. And we get criticized for that. We want to be regulated. How many times, those of you who've been there a while, how many companies have come here and said, please tax us, please regulate us, please license us? We're willing to do that. We want to work with state government. We don't want to be run off and crushed under the heel of big business. Okay? That's all this is. This is a big power move. You've seen it before. It's most unfortunate, but that's who you're going to hurt. And they've got families. They've got employees. The employees have families. Some of them live in your districts, and they're all registered voters. And some not too distant future, you're going to be knocking on their doors, running for re-election. And you're going to go up to that door and you're going to ask very respectfully and very politely for their vote. And that, at that exact moment, they're going to remember. They're going to remember this day. And they're going to remember your vote. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All done?
I believe so. Thank you, Chairman.
All right, thank you. Where's my good friend Gene Cole? He signed up to speak and he's with neither group. So, sir, if you can keep it to a minute or so, that'd be great. I'll let you come up. Please introduce yourself for the record and state your point.
Thank you. Gene Cole with the Kentucky League on Alcohol, Gambling Problems, and Substance Use Disorders. I am in support of this bill because we do not need to have expanded gambling. Some of the comments I've got a lot of comments I had have been made already, so I'm not going to rehash them, but this is directed more towards the small business owners. They owned businesses for how long? And before these machines came in, how were they able to survive? If they're saying now they can't survive without these machines. Barely. And then take a look at your receipts. Before you got the machines, for whatever you sell, I don't know what each one sells, and then compared the receipts for that same product now, and see if there how much of a difference there is, and then see if the machines have actually made up that difference.
Thank you, Mr. Cole. Appreciate it. Okay, let's move to questions. So two groups, just be ready to come forward, and we'll identify which group the question's directed to as it comes. Representative Bratcher, let you go first. Can you just start off with who your question is to and let them come forward?
My old colleague, Hellringer. If he'll calm down.
I'm no different than when I was up here, right?
I know, when you get tired, when you were down here, they would make some...
Maybe I'm worse.
You said...
Maybe I'm worse, that's it.
You said convenience stores. You're thinking that kids should play these games?
No, sir. We have, glad you brought that up. Thank you. Our machines, by contract, I'm only talking about my company, but must be near the cash register, near the entrance or exit to the stores. They're watched continually by the owner and the proprietor, okay? We do not permit underage people to play our games. In fact, it's written in our contract that if we find out that they are, that's grounds to remove our games, okay? So we have a compliance officer, and they make random and surprise visits to our stores, and we're very vigilant about that.
You say contract. You're not talking about House Bill 595. You're talking about a contract between Wildcat and the store?
In the stores, yes.
So what happens if a child is playing? Is there a penalty or what?
Yes. As I said, if we find out about it and verify it, it's grounds for us to remove the games.
I have like three more. I'll go quick. Yeah.
Wow.
One at a time.
He was a lot more quiet, Mr. Chairman, back when he and I were together. But go ahead. If you want me or you want somebody else.
Oh, I thought I was getting shut down.
No,
over
I should go ahead, one at a time.
Are you guys wanting to see one on? It was told just earlier that you guys want to see a machine on every street corner. Is anybody speaking for that? Is anybody out there that wants to see one on every street corner? And then now the other group. I have one question, and I'll be done.
Very good.
Why was Chuck E. Cheese and esports carved out?
Short answer for that is they're not gambling. We're dealing with gray games in this bill, and we want it to be very clear that we weren't sweeping with too broad a brush.
I don't understand. If Chuck E. Cheese, if you go into Chuck E. Cheese, you're not gambling. Is that? No, I'm really lost here. What does that mean?
Well, you're looking for cash versus a prize, typically.
A prize, okay. And the FOP, where's the FOP? Are they out there today? They were really vocal last year.
We've seen their statement publicly where they announced that their executive board took a vote, and based on that vote, they have pulled out of their fundraising partnership, were the exact words they used with these operators.
They got paid off, didn't they?
That's it, sir. That's it, Chairman.
Okay, let's go with Representative Meredith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm glad you were able to put a little space between me and Hellringer's impassioned plea that he made there. I don't think I could live up to that. And I have a couple of questions, one comment to start off with, and then a couple of questions. We heard the last group make the statement that they brought a bill, they want to be regulated. The thing that I find kind of interesting about that is they now want to be regulated because they thought they were going to be banned. They didn't seek to be regulated in the beginning when they came here. They asked every individual county attorney in the state, instead of looking to the state legislature who authorizes gambling across the entire breadth and depth of the Commonwealth. And I think that's a flaw in the argument that was made. But I have a real specific question, and I'll start with their side. And I don't know if Bob wants to answer this question or Mike wants to answer this question, whichever one of you does. I make no bones about it. I support regulated gaming in Kentucky, and I have with about every vote that I've taken on the subject here. Part of regulation is regulating, especially in this machine format of gambling, is we regulate by actually monitoring and looking into those machines and doing studies into those machines. HHR, for example, the takeout rate, the hold rate for the company. And I think it's regulated in statute, and to be in compliance, those machines cannot have over a 7 to 8% takeout or hold rate. Could you all tell me what your all's hold or takeout rate is on your all's machines?
Go ahead. Sure. There is no such thing on a skill game. If you play a skill game, you need to be able to win every single time.
Well, you know, y'all mentioned sports wagering earlier, so follow up, Mr. Chairman. And I would argue that that's a skill too. Frankly, Churchill Downs didn't write that bill. I want to be clear about that too. But
I wasn't. I'm sorry. I agree.
But the economic study that was done on that several years ago by Commonwealth Economics, outside group, studied that issue to try to figure out what the potential revenue was, what the total amount of the handle was, and they had an estimated takeout rate or hold rate on what's, again, a skill game, and it was about 7%. So you have to have what you're realizing in revenue averaged out across your business model as a hold or a takeout rate. So could you all tell me what that is as an average in practicality across the model?
Sure, Representative. So I can take historically what we do because, again, a skill game, if it is a true game of skill, it pays out every time. So it's about 92 to 93% on average.
Okay. Second question is for the other group, if I could.
Yes, sir.
Obviously, they spent some time on the Dave & Buster's issue and the Chuck E. Cheese issue, and so unintended consequences are something I think we're all trying to make sure we don't get into with related to this type of legislation. County fairs, state fairs, local church festivals, things of that nature, where you have a duck pond game, where you have a coin bulldozer game, those kinds of things. How do you all address those in these bills? Is there an unintended consequence where those types of machines could be banned for the fairs and the festivals?
That is covered in the bill. We're clearly wanting to carve those types of games out. State Fair Board has reviewed the bill, and they are good with it. And I'm trying to find that language. But that's covered, Representative Meredith.
Yeah, the Kentucky State Fair, County Fair, Festival Midway, carnival type games such as ring toss, floating rubber ducks in a tub, basketball, shoot, balloon darts, shooting type games, guess your weight games are all excluded from gaming devices and gambling.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Representative
Couldn't find that.
Mosier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for your presentation. It would be okay with me if you took the guess your weight game out. We can ban that.
Keep guess your age, though, right?
That's right. You know, we've gone back and forth about this situation for a couple of years now. I, too, am for well-regulated gambling in Kentucky. I hate the thought of, you know, just proliferation of really anything. I think that we need to be really cautious. I think it's, you know, on one hand, hypocritical to vote for HHR and sports wagering, but those are both regulated. And so that's what brings me back to my, I guess my point. I'm for regulating. We still don't have a bill to vote on that would regulate it. I've had conversations with Representative Timoney, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate all of your work on this. I really do. I know that we've talked about if we clean the slate, that we'll come back next year and regulate games. How plausible is that? I mean, is Churchill willing to work with us to do this?
I don't know that either one of us is in a position to speak for Churchill Downs, Representative Mosier. I would say that all of the talk about monopoly and this hyper focus on Churchill, I think, is really misplaced. It's like they didn't even listen to Mr. Arnett, the veterans groups, the Kentucky Council on Churches, a lot of the charitable organizations that are out there other than veterans groups. There is a broad-based coalition against these machines. So it's really not just a matter of Churchill Downs. And I'm sorry that it's kind of come to that. I think the other side's done a good job of painting it that way, but that's not reality.
Okay, may have a follow-up. Okay, thank you. And this may be to Mr. Hellringer, and I'm sure you all have a position on this as well, but what assurances can you give us that
Just stay right there, guys, and that way we'll keep bouncing back and
you don't
forth.
have
We're
to
all,
keep
we're all
getting
friends
up
here.
and down.
Just keep an eye on it.
Hold that out now.
Let me get the chair for you.
Mr. Hellringer?
Yes. Yes,
What
ma'am.
assurances can you give us that if this bill doesn't pass, that there won't be just a proliferation of these so-called gray machines across Kentucky?
Well, my client makes no apologies for they're in business, and we don't have as many machines as our competitors, Paysomatic, and we want to address that. We're competing out in the marketplace. We're not afraid of competition. We embrace it, and so, but we do need. There is a bill introduced that we've been working very hard on for months, starting last summer, that went through several drafts that became House Bill 525. And it took about, 2 of those months to get Paysomatic and Prominent to agree to meet. Okay? I mean, it's the way the marketplace is. I guess FedEx doesn't have too many meetings with the post office. I don't know. But we got them together. And the lobbyists said, hey, if you don't get together and work on a bill, we have no chance, divide it. And so they agreed because they're smart business people. And they said, okay. And so we worked on a bill. And, it's a start. It's got a very high tax rate in it, we believe. It's got regulation. It's got licensure. It's got all the details that we think that state government should have. And we have come to you. We're being chastised for we didn't do this to start with. Well, what else are you going to do but start with the law as it currently is? And that law allowed us to operate, and as it has in other states. So we did that. But when the lottery came after us last year, we said, okay, it's time to come in and work with the legislature to straighten this out. And so we did. The lottery, they're not here anymore. Where they tried to sell you last year, where we were a threat to them, and they're neutral now. They're gone. So their place has been taken by somebody bigger. And please don't deceive yourselves. They can dress this up all they want, but this is the racing industry that I love passionately.
Let's stick to the question, Mr. Hellringer.
But thank you, Your Honor. But that is who is trying to crush us. Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry.
And Representative, just to follow up from Paysomatic.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, Chairman. But Representative, just to follow up with Paysomatic, look, we already limit the number of games that we put into establishment to 5, and that typically isn't the case. But that's why we're looking for a regulatory solution, put some guardrails around this.
Representative Callaway has a question.
Thank you, Chairman. I have one for each, if that's okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Mr. Hellringer,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not very familiar with the contracts that these small businesses have to be agreeable to. Can you explain a little bit? Does it vary from business to business? I'm just concerned that according to some testimony, that some small businesses will get in and then it not go the way they intend. There's just some concerns that we would actually be enabling small businesses to be taken advantage of. So I'd like to hear about contracts.
Well, we have a form contract with our operators and our customers, and it's very simple. If they decide they don't want us anymore, we come by and pick up the machines. I mean, I don't know maybe I'm not following your question.
No, is that standard practice? So there's no time commitment at all
No.
to have these in, or no
No.
agreements like that. Okay, thank you for that. And my second question, I would like to know why they weren't removed originally when they first came in. Why weren't they removed? That question keeps coming up. If they're illegal, and then why was there no action taken before they got to the point where they're well established and moneymakers? Why didn't we address it from the start? Thank you.
I think that's a great question, and I'd answer that a couple different ways. I mean, first of all, Mr. Hellringer mentioned that at least 2 county attorneys said, "Don't you dare come to our county," and he said they've stayed away from those counties. In Round County, Mike over here testified that was an organized pickup where the sheriff seized the machine in an organized way. I don't know what that is. What I do know is that the owner of the premises where the machine was located is set to be arraigned on April 5th, and the machine itself sits in an evidence room. So there have been prosecutions out there. There have been red flags raised by some local prosecutors. But I do know that leadership has been sent a letter from the County Attorney Association saying, give us some guidance, let's make it clear. They're looking for a statement from the legislature at this point. So bluntly, Representative, I think the other side's done a pretty good job confusing the issue. To me, it's crystal clear. If a game involves any element of chance, and you didn't hear anybody today on the other side deny, because they can't, that these gray games involve an element of chance, that's gambling. And unless it's been permitted as pari-mutuel wagering, the lottery, or charitable gaming, all right? So there's no monopoly here. There's 3 forms of regulated gaming. If it's not one of those 3 things, it's illegal. And to promote it and advance it is a crime under Kentucky law. We're simply asking for the legislature to affirm that and make it clear vis-a-vis these games.
Let's go with Representative Cole Carney has a question.
Chairman, I'm sorry. Chairman, do you mind, I know you're short on time, but.
Briefly.
Thank you. I mean, there's a predominant skill test. That is just not accurate. It's in multiple states. And the Rowan County thing, again, that would be, if they're involved in this, that would be the equivalent of us knocking on their door and saying, hey, please pick this up so we can have a judicial opinion on it. So I don't think they were exactly active on this issue. They wanted to find the truth out. And honestly, we wanted to clear up the misperceptions that have been thrown out by the other side.
Representative Cole Carney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have 2.5 questions.
2.5?
I'll be
well,
quick.
One at a time.
I'll be quick.
Do a 1 1/4, or are you going to do just a 1?
No, just a half. Just
a half first.
I have my first question, or I guess it's a comment. So I was here in 21 when HHR was illegal and we made it legal. So this idea of definitions and things that are legal and not, we made that decision because the Supreme Court decided that it wasn't, and we had to go in and legislatively change a definition to make HHR legal in Kentucky. My question is, and it seems to me in that time frame, this push for banning anything else that is in that same space started, coming from a particular large conglomerate that is in my district. And that's just a fact. I mean, this is just where the push started. I want to understand the impact that this is going to have on small business. So I don't, whoever at the table can answer this for me. Because when we said HHR is legal, that is all going to CDI. What is the impact on small business owners that are here today in terms of having these machines in their establishments? What is their take home in terms of income that they're getting from these machines?
So, Representative, I can tell you for us, on average, the take home for a small business is $25,000 to $30,000 annually. And I understand that's probably not a lot to a major company, but it's a lot to these folks. And I can tell you, we were at Tom and Al's Convenience and Bait Shop in McDaniels, Kentucky. They dropped the lake in McDaniels there, and his pier doesn't reach out, his dock doesn't reach out into the water anymore. He started crying when we told him this could happen because his business will close. There will be real results as a result of this bill, and that's just one example.
And quick follow-up. This is the second one. I still have a half. I'm reserving my half. My understanding is that the FOP is neutral, is publicly neutral on this. So whatever reasoning for them to end a contract that they had, they are neutral on this particular piece of legislation. Is that correct?
I wouldn't want to speak for the FOP. All I can say is what I read in their public statement, which was that they were pulling out, they were ending their fundraising partnership with the gray game operators. Whether that's neutrality or what, I couldn't say.
It's not opposition.
We had a partnership with them. They did send us a letter. We are proud of the work we did with the FOP. We delivered them a fair amount of revenue. We helped to sponsor a disaster relief truck. When 3 officers were shot last year, we did not make it public, but I guess in light of this, we will. We delivered $75,000, $25,000 out of each one of those families directly through the FOP to get to those families. We're proud of the partnership with the FOP. We're hopeful in the future that we may be able to rekindle that.
And then finally,
The half question?
my half question.
I'm interested.
My understanding of all of this is that this is a space that we've created with whatever definition changes that we've had. We have a player and we have several smaller players. We have carve-outs here for charitable gaming, for state fairs, for esports, for certain retail establishments, and then we've got HHR on one side. It seems to me that this is now just a discussion about what is the pot and a competition for who gets the largest share of that pot. And somebody had mentioned, and I think it was the charitable gaming folks who may have left, that their particular, whatever they received from charitable gaming was cut in half, and they were saying it's due to the gray machines. I wanted to know over what period of time that was. Did that count COVID, for instance? And is the argument here that we just don't want competition?
I don't see it as a competition issue. I see it as the legislature deciding what's a crime and what's not a crime. That's how important this is. The gambling statute's been on the books for decades, and this is a new form of gambling, if you will, a new mode of gambling that's come onto the scene. And I think it's incumbent upon the legislature to say, let's look at this. Is it something that we should ban or not? It's that simple. It's Chapter 528, which is the penal code. So you're not really regulating competition here as much as you're saying we want to make sure that we're not going to unwittingly allow, which I think everybody would have to agree, the largest expansion of gambling in the history of Kentucky. You know, the math is very simple. If they're proposing up to 5 machines at premises that serve alcohol, there's 8,000 of those times 5 is 40,000. That's the bare minimum. And House Bill 525 even removes the limitation on alcohol sales. So they're expanding it in the last 3-4 months since they came before the interim committee back in November. Their bill now is much broader than what it was just a few months ago. So, you know, the competition, you've got the lottery, you've got charitable gaming, you've got parimutuel wagering. Those are the three-legged stool.
We're going to go with 2 more questions, and then we're going to go to a vote.
Can I respond to that, Ms. Representative?
Yes.
Very briefly, of course it's competition. I think you know, if it looks like a horse and smells like a horse, it's a horse, and it's competition, okay? The sports betting bill, okay, that don't want to get
Not
gentlemen
sports betting, not on the table. Keep it to the subject.
gentleman from Edmondson excited over there because I support that bill. I was the most pro-gambling legislator there ever was when I was here. Okay, but that bill is to the total benefit of the horse racing industry. Okay, the Horse Racing Commission administers it. The net money goes to pension funds, but the people that running it are the racetracks, and there's a lower tax if you bet the sports betting at the racetrack.
Representative Hellringer.
Okay,
We'll get to that bill in a
all
week
right.
or two.
Former Representative Hellringer, yeah. But I mean, when is enough enough? When is it not a monopoly? I mean, they want that too. And again, I'm all for that industry. I love that industry. We've owned horses. We've raced horses. I've worked at the tracks. Don't want to do anything to hurt them in any way, shape, or form. But this, putting a couple of bucks in a machine at a gas station, is no threat to horse racing. They just want to get rid of somebody who might be, someday, a competitor.
All right, let's go with Representative Kleins, and then Representative Banner will be our final question.
Thank you, Chairman Cook. So it's one question for both parties. First of all, I want to thank both parties for making us very informed representatives when it comes to making this decision. I know you've spent a lot of time with us, so I do want to thank you for that. So Mr. Hellringer and Mr. Bailey, and then we'll go to Mr. Guilfoyle or Representative Timoney. So when I go down the street in my district and I'll see a coffee shop, or I'll see a cleaners, or I'll see an automotive dealer, a local mechanic, and you'll see signs when you buy from small businesses, you support this, or when you buy from small businesses you support that, or when you buy some. What exactly, when I walk into one of these small businesses that have gray machines, skills games, puzzle games, what specifically, in your opinion, am I buying?
Well, actually, our games are purple. They're not gray.
I tried to hit all three. I even threw puzzle in there. Okay, I learned puzzle games. All right, I gave you two names.
Okay. What your question again? I'm
so
sorry.
It's like you're. What am I buying? Like I'm buying a cup of coffee at a coffee shop, or I'm buying a service from a mechanic to fix my car. So when you say, what am I buying from a small business when I go in and play a skills game?
Well, I think the way it typically works is people come in. They tell us we don't have too many people that come in just to play that. It's a thing they do while they're in there. They're getting a lottery ticket, or they're getting a gallon of milk, or paying for their gas, and they'll take a few minutes and play these like they might buy a scratch off and do that there. I've seen people doing that in gas stations, and they may play a couple of games. And again, it's a game they have to play and interact with and win. Entertainment.
Yeah, it's a form of entertainment. Representative for and many of these companies are providing dartboards, pool tables, similar forms of entertainment.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Guilfoyle?
Yeah, I'd suggest you go to the Shell station right off 64 when you're coming into town on Versailles Road. When you go in there, you'll see a counter that is nothing but plastic and cigarettes and lottery signs, and it's a big plastic enclosure. And on the floor, there are 5 machines of one variety, and right around the corner where the clerk can't begin to see what's going on, there are 3 huge machines there. 8 machines in the Shell station right off the interstate coming into Frankfurt. To answer your question, what are people buying? They're sitting down and they're putting money in a machine and they're trying to win at tic-tac-toe. So when the 9 images stop, if there's 2 that you could complete the tic-tac-toe with, you hit that square with a wild card and you win. Oftentimes when you hit the play button and the images stop and there's no way to win a tic-tac-toe, you lose. Now that's chance. That's not skill. That's you hit the play button and you just lost. So to answer your question, what are they buying? That's what they're buying, a chance to win.
I need to clarify that's not accurate. And again, we've had a lot of misstatements. There's a secondary game that they can play where they win 104% of their gameplay back. And that is completely omitted by the other side. And don't take my word for it. Take it from every court that's actually looked at this game and ruled it a game of predominant chance or predominant skill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thanks, Representative.
Representative Banta.
This is gonna, I need some supposition for a second. Is there any chance that, because I would like to see it regulated, taxed, and done, that if this did not pass and it went 1 year, because I've been assured by someone I respect greatly that they would run a bill to regulate it next year and tax it and do all that, would businesses be able to survive or do without these for the few months that it would take?
I can only speak for our company. You pass a bill, a law that bans them, they're gone. Okay? Now, I've heard this undercurrent of a clean slate, and we're going to ban you, and then we're going to bring you back. If you owned a company, would you trust government that banned you to now come on back?
Well,
I mean,
if they passed a law for
what's
it.
going to change? I mean, the next session could ban them again. I mean, I think there needs to be some stability. There needs to be regulation, as you mentioned, and licensure, et cetera, and go forward. And the slate's already there. Let's do it now, respectfully.
Okay. No further questions. Do we have a motion on the bill? Motion by Representative Dixon. Do we have a second? Second by Representative Flannery. Clerk, please call the roll.
Representative Banta.
No.
Representative Bratcher.
No.
Representative Callaway.
May I explain my vote, please?
Yes, ma'am.
So I struggled with this one because I do see it as a gray area. Otherwise, the attorneys wouldn't have needed to be contacted. So I do see it as a gray area. I disagree with that. And others did respect our laws and stayed out because they saw it as a gray area. So my vote today is not because of that. I just don't think we would see this again to be able to regulate it. And I know my constituents want it. So I strongly support pursuing House Bill 525. And I'm voting no today on House Bill 594.
Representative Kleins.
Explain my vote.
Yes, sir.
So I'm going to vote yes because I think it needs to go to the General Assembly and let the General Assembly vote on it.
Representative Dixon.
Yes.
Representative Pfister.
Yes.
Representative Flannery.
Yes.
Representative Gentry.
Explain my vote, please.
Yes, sir.
I, too, am for regulated gaming. I'm for tables. I'm for slot machines, for all that. I stood in here last year in this very committee and voted no against this bill. Actually, in the committee, we tried to tax and regulate on the spot, or there was an attempt to, which I thought was not the right way to go. I'm going to vote yes today, and I'll tell you why. I've done a lot of studies on gaming across this country, casino gaming, and it's my opinion the proper way to do this, the real focus is tourism. The real focus is generating non-resident tax revenues. And I think the proper way to do it is casinos in populated areas that are highly regulated and highly taxed, next to convention areas, next to popular tourism places where we are receiving revenues from non-residents so that we can lower our tax burden for our residents and use tax revenues to do some things that really help, including problem gambling, which we don't do right now in the state of Kentucky. And I know it's another bill for another day, Mr. Chairman, so I will be voting yes for now.
Representative Hebron.
Yes.
Representative Herron.
Can I explain my vote,
Yes,
please?
ma'am.
Last year I was a yes on this bill to ban these games, and I think my reason is probably different from everyone else's. In my community in District 42, I go into our corner stores and there's these games. These same corner stores jack up the prices of things for folks in my community. I went the other day for myself to buy ginger ale, a regular size ginger ale, and it was $2.11. And so I get that there's small businesses that need to thrive, but also some of these small businesses are predatory to folks in my community. So I am going to be a yes. I will be continuing to have more conversations about this and could possibly change my vote on the floor. Thank you.
Representative Huff.
I'd like to briefly explain my vote, please.
Yes, sir.
I own a small business. I know how the struggles are with a small business. I've interviewed folks in my district, and I've interviewed businesses in my district, and I'm going to be a no on this vote. Thank you.
Representative Jackson. Yes, ma'am. Representative Kulkarni.
Briefly explain my vote.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to be a no today. I again mentioned that I had Churchill in my district. We've had this discussion before about promises to come back and regulate and tax, and I am not interested in penalizing the small business owners in my district or the small business owners in the Commonwealth, especially those that are sitting here today for the sake of a corporation that simply wants a larger share of the pie. So I'll be no today. Thank you.
Representative Meredith. Representative Moser.
Explain my vote.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to be a no today in support of our small businesses and with the hope that we will come back and regulate. I think that's the prudent thing to do. I look forward to working with whoever carries that, but that's my stance today.
Representative Palumbo.
Yes.
Representative Pratt.
Yes.
Representative Smith. Representative Timoney. Chairman Cook.
Yes. I've got 13. Motion carries. House Bill 594 is amended by House Committee Sub 1. It's passed with favorable expression. Representative Timoney, you have a title amendment you need to make a motion on. Do we have a second? Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, nay. Title amendment is adopted. No further business come to